Good morning, industry explorers. Welcome to episode 3 of our live stream self-mastery series. Today, I have Ashley Bilz. Oh my gosh, did I pronounce that correctly?
It's bills, like the ones you pay, but spelled a
Bilz.
little different.
Ashley Bilz, everybody. I have to admit, I have spelled her name wrong almost every single time that I type it because I keep singing Blitzkrieg Bop in my head, but that's not how it's spelled. It's not even how it's pronounced. So I'm an idiot. And let's get right
No.
into this. Cool. I'm your host. And if you guys have any questions for Ashley, please leave them in the comments and I will get to it. And we're going to answer your questions live. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, we get people joining us pretty soon here. And Ashley, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Give us a nice little summary of like everything you've done, because you are a jack of all trades and a master at none.
But oftentimes better than a master of one.
That's it. Thank you
I've
for finishing that. I wanted you to finish that for me.
awesome. I've always been in theater, like since I was a kid. I knew immediately that was kind of what I wanted to do, and that's what I excelled at. I was always that kid running around screaming. And then in high school is really where I got into the backstage sort of thing with my high school, and I realized that I love creating things. I love making things. I love knowing how they work. I went to the University of Southern California and got a BFA in theater and technical direction. From there, I did a couple freelance gigs. I did a couple small gigs, master electrician, just really putting myself out there. I was an apprentice carpenter for a fabrication studio in Silmar, California under IATSE 33. And then I made my way to Disney, where I was in a variety of roles because back then tech services only, and IATSE 504 only took people in once every blue moon. So I had to kind of wait my turn. So I was a puppeteer for a while with Playhouse Disney, which was a great opportunity. And then I got into kind of the production office of scheduling and workforce planning. And then I got into tech services, where I was kind of in their big house shows like Aladdin and Musical Spectacular, which turned into Frozen. I did a little bit of work on World of Color, not nearly as much as you have. I did grad nights, electronica, Glowfest, and really kind of culminated in Frozen Live at the Hyperion, where I did a lot of their documentation and logistics work for the remounts, did some automation there, and then really my one true show is the Royal Theater presents Tangled, Beauty and the Beast, and Frozen. Stupid little show, but it's a winner. And then I actually left last year to go into the academic sector as the theater coordinator for Chaffey College and their technical director. And now I'm here, an entertainment refugee in COVID. But we're going to make it through, and we're going to make it better when it starts up again.
So does that mean you're also open for work?
Very much open for work.
Do you hear that, everybody? Give Ashley a call. You're going to want to give her a call after this. So, all right. Yeah, you have amazing experience and you've done so much. Now, let's go ahead and get right into it. What would you say you do here? Now, I want you to tell us, how do you go about translating entertainment work, entertainment skills, and translating that into HR speak? Yes. Did you see yesterday's live stream by chance?
I did. I tuned in for a little bit. And it's really great advice. It's kind of looking into what you want to do and copy pasting, but changing it up a little bit. I know when I was first putting together or refreshing my resume, especially at Disney, I was like, oh man, who's going to want me? I've just been slinging magnets and pressing buttons and just doing very specific Disney stuff for the last 15 years. No one's going to want that. And then I realized, wait a minute, there's a lot of stuff in here that's actually really marketable. I'm not just putting props stage left and stage right. I'm doing asset management under a tight deadline. costumers aren't just dressing other people. They're doing interpersonal customer service skills. They are doing asset maintenance. Whenever you think of a prop or a costume or something like that, that's an asset. And when you do maintenance on that thing, when you fix it, anything else, that's asset preservation or those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Where you actually get into it and you're like, wait a minute, I do a lot of stuff. I do stuff good,
Yeah.
as it were. Something that was helpful for me, and I know anyone that's been on those internal job sites where they have you put in your resume and then you have to fill out everything afterwards. I actually went deep into the interwebs and I found my old job descriptions as they were posted on job boards. So like technical services for Disney, the old job description for theater coordinator at Chafee, all those kinds of things. And I actually, in their job qualifications, I copied those and pasted them in because those are skills you have. Those are things you did because you did the job. So not only was that really helpful for filling out those applications online, but it also gave me the HR speak I needed to translate my skills. It was kind of done for me.
Yeah.
And then I would look through jobs that I was interested in or the direction I wanted to go. And I would take all of those, like, let's think of like a production coordinator. There's lots of things out there right now where you can just kind of go into LinkedIn and look at all those qualifications and responsibilities. And I copied all of them, put them into a big Word document, and then started picking the pieces that kept coming up again and again. And a lot of that was, let's see, demonstrate success or creative approach to problem solving, self-starter, like all of those soft skills, but they kept coming up again and again. Working on, let's see, mastering multifaceted systems that quickly. That's a thing that every stagehand knows how to
Yeah,
do.
exactly. Exactly. And I think the advice that you have to go look at previous job descriptions for jobs you've already had, see how it was all laid out and pick out the key words that are there because you already had that job. So you are qualified for that job. You did the job. And, it's people like to be modest about themselves, but you've proven that you can get that job and stay in that job. So take those qualifiers and take those descriptors and keywords and like you said, make a Word document. So then that way, when you are looking at future job descriptions and for a future role you're applying for, you can have that list here of all the soft skills and you can translate it into your resume, into your cover letter. And if you have to, upload your PDF of a resume and then retype everything anyway, well, it's already there. You already have it. I think that's really, really amazing advice. I've not even thought of that myself, to be perfectly honest. And I'm gonna have to try that, like out of sheer fun, just to be like, hey, I had this job, this job, this job. What can I do? What do these people think I can do? Hey, I really can do this. So
yeah, and they're already in those automated systems, so you know that it tracks and it pings. So
yeah,
it does all the hard work for you.
That is, I love that. I really love that advice. I'm gonna type some of this down so people can see the ticker. But please continue. Spotlight. Here.
Wait, I usually
Aladdin days.
Oh man, those were that was my zen, is running that follow spot and just watching the show. And
it was a great show. I had fun.
Yeah, I mean, say what you want about Aladdin, but it was a classic and people it put butts in seats through the end. I really do miss that show and I miss a lot of the people in that show. Shout out Dylan White, Ken Parks, all of our genies, all of our friends. But really, once I started realizing all of the things that I had done and all of these marketable skills, when you have those moments of insecurity of I'm not good enough, which I know you're going to talk about with your guest tomorrow.
Definitely.
seeing all those things concrete and on paper is so empowering to yourself, and it helps you kind of tell that little voice in your head to shut up. I do things. I do things and I do them well, and I do them well enough that people want to pay me. Um, and really it's just about translating, and your friends are also a really great resource for that too. If you worked with somebody and you know that they have a resume, call them up and say like, "Hey, can I look at your resume, or how did you put this?" We're all trying to help each other here. So, I mean, you might as well just ask your friends. It's okay to ask for help. Even of people that you think wouldn't give you the time of day, because we're all in the same boat and we all have lots of time now.
Yeah, definitely. I actually recently wrote someone a letter of recommendation, and you think about, and she's a rigger, and she's going into veterinarian school, and so she wants to totally change industries. And I was thinking, okay, well, with the path that she's going to do, what are the things that those people are looking for? And I looked at the job descriptors, and I picked out certain skills, and then I thought about what it means to be a rigger. And that's cool. That's a huge jump. And it's not a jump you can do like without education. So she was going to school, but she needed a letter of recommendation. So I made sure to see, okay, what is it that they need? And then how does that relate to what we do in entertainment? And then I thought it was a really good letter of recommendation. And those are just some of the things you need to think about if you're writing a resume or writing a letter of recommendation. Or in yesterday's call, Nicole Rand suggested that once you apply for a job, try to get a hold of the recruiter or the employer. Just send them a message saying, "Thank you for considering my application." Because when you do those little things and you take the extra step, then that shows employers you're willing to take the extra step while you're doing your job. And what stagehand doesn't just, give everything their all. That's what we do. When you're in entertainment at any capacity, you give it your all, because we really put our heart into the art. And that's why employers would be so lucky to hire someone with a heavy entertainment background, because that's what you guys do. That's what we do. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah,
So
and
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go
And
ahead.
it can be really hard to separate yourself from your job, and that's something I see a lot on social media, is people saying, "Oh my God, I lost my job. I don't know who I am now. I feel empty. I feel anxious." And I understand, because we put so much of ourselves into our work. It's hard to pull the things that you brought to the job separate from what the job actually was. And once you realize that you are not your job, you made your job excellent. The things that you brought to the job, you can take somewhere else. And when you tie yourself instead of to a company or a position or a title, and you tie yourself instead to an idea of, "I like building things. I like figuring out the puzzle. I am really good at creating. I have an eye for design." Those are things that you can take with you anywhere, and they always stay with you, so no one can take them away from you. And
Yeah.
that's really important to remember when you're between jobs.
Yeah. And I think that we mentioned that yesterday, that you are a whole person. So don't forget that, especially when you're in between jobs, especially during these COVID times where your identity has literally been taken from you. But you are so much more than your job. Your identity is way more than just cast member or rigger, stagehand, IOTC tech, performer. You are so much more than all of those things. And those things are really exciting and really cool. And I'm so proud to be a part of this industry and to have met the incredible people that I've met. But we are all so much more than that's just one little sliver of who we are. And that's actually a lesson that I learned maybe 4 years ago or something. It was after a breakup. I went through a breakup, and I will admit I was a toxic person at that time. I was not a good girlfriend. And I was also a very jealous girlfriend. And I was jealous of other women who were older than me and more successful than me. But after the breakup, I learned that I am on my own path. I have my own journey and I have my own set of skills, my own personality. And it was kind of a transitional period for me to learn those things. I don't know if COVID is kind of like a breakup. I mean, if it
Like
is,
the
then
ultimate breakup.
I want people to start posting pictures of their bangs and their color hair and all the men with their beards grown out. Like, because that's what you do after a breakup, or that's what you do when you get laid off from Disney, or that's what you do when, there's a global pandemic. Show off your bangs. Come on, give it to me. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I get you. I had that same moment when my husband and I decided to start a family. So I got pregnant and went through the whole thing. And I had that identity crisis after I had my daughter, where suddenly my top title for strangers, for everybody, was mom. You are mom. You're somebody's mother now. And that's more important. That's who you are. You are your child's mother. What else could you possibly want? And I was like, wait a minute. I am a whole person. I have a name. Please call me by my name. Don't call me, oh, so-and-so's mommy. And that was a really important time for me to realize that I am a person. I do things. I have interests, and I am an individual. But I can also be mom. Like and really kind of grappling with that little existential crisis of, yes, I was a stagehand. Yes, I was a cast member, but I'm also these other things. And when you're on the job market, you want to pull in all of those things together, but just make sure that it's still your name on top of the page and not a company or something else.
Right. I really want to go back to when you were mentioning how if you're not just moving props from stage left to stage right, you're managing assets in a time restricted manner, and do you have more of those? I want to write those down, and I want to put them on the ticker on the bottom. Props equals assets.
I'm looking at my little second monitor here. So a lot of times you might have to describe something to an employer because they have no idea what goes on backstage. That's the whole point. Stage managers, you coordinate design deadlines. It's not just sending emails saying, hey, I need the picture of whatever. You coordinate deadlines. And workflow is a really nice buzzword to put in there when you're talking about managing your crews. Because a lot of people don't know what crew chief is or what lead is or foreman is. So you say you are managing a workforce. Yeah, it is weird. Like I've had a lot of interviewers say like, so it says technical services division lead. What does that mean? I'm like, oh, I was a lead for some of the crews on projects. And they're like, oh, like what? So when you say that you led a team, that's a lot more transparent for them. Oh, this is a good one. Collaborated across departments. So if you're talking to costuming because you need a quick change setup, and stage management because it's going to be late, and then you need to talk to your maintenance crew because something's broken, that's collaborating across departments, and they love that. Let's see, what else? A really hot one right now is streaming and live broadcasts and things like that. So if you've ever had to like manage content for video walls or pulled in pixel mapping for your lighting designs, managing the collection, encoding, and ingestion of digital assets, that's huge.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Managing video content.
Yeah, ingestion.
Ingestion.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Say that again. Say the whole thing again.
To ingest, to take a raw file and turn it into something that you can hand to an editor, or that you have to change the format so it goes into your system. That's ingesting digital assets, and that's huge right now. Let's see. What else do I have? Oh, documentation. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's something that's kind of near and dear to my heart.
Mhm.
But if you've ever written a show track, or if you've ever done a fall protection plan, you have developed legacy documentation and SOPs, which is standard operating procedures. And that is something that translates across construction, manufacturing, marketing, all of that can be pulled into that. What else? Payroll processing is huge, even payroll data entry. So if you've ever filled out a timesheet or had somebody hand you a whole stack, guess what you've been doing? Payroll.
Payroll.
And I mean, don't ever lie on your resume. Don't make it into some huge thing. You can just say, I have experience with data entry for payroll, for union situations, for collective bargaining agreements, and fringes and um, different outliers. So, like your third shift premiums, your lead premiums, your high pay premiums, you understand what those are and you
Mm.
understand how they work. And that's a really valuable skill because it's not something that comes native to a lot of people. Also, safety procedures. Oh my gosh, they're huge right now. And being a native speaker of best practices, especially in safety right now, just knowing what OSHA stands for is huge because anyone can pick up $50 and get themselves a COVID certification. I have one.
Mhm.
But to understand that you have OSHA 10 certification, to understand OSHA and ESTA practices, that's huge. And that's worth mentioning towards the top of your resume, that you have a
Mhm.
comprehensive practical knowledge of safety best practices per
Mhm.
OSHA and ESTA standards. Excuse me.
Yeah.
That's really important. And that's something that kind of sets you above because it lets your employer know that you know how to do it safely and you've been around the block before. So they don't have to, you've already received that training. And that's something else to think about is what did my last employer do to pull me into the fray? I know at Disney, there is a whole onboarding process. Get your binder, pull it out, see what's inside, because those are all skills you have. Basic rigging, the safety stuff, the customer service. Great thing to mention is branding. I know
Mhm.
at Disney, or if you've worked for a huge IP, being able to preserve that brand identity and to
Mhm.
reflect brand identity is a really unique skill that you already have as a stagehand because that's what you're doing. You're amplifying a brand, and that's great for marketing. That's great for high IPs because they know that you can manage that kind of stuff to be a brand ambassador. That's a great
Mm.
one for my character friends. A lot of people that have portrayed characters. You were a brand ambassador, my friends. In your customer service, which is huge. And that's a nice little buzzword. Um, let's see what else. Dependencies are huge. A dependency in the corporate world means something has to happen before something else happens. So you can't you can't do the upper 10 feet of the Small World Christmas install until you order your lifts and they arrive on set. So that is managing a dependency. So if you've ever had to do something like that, did I lose you? She's silent. Um, Laura Golden just had a great comment about the safe disposal of hazardous waste. Your hazard communication is also super great. Um, things like that. Hey, guess what? It's the Ashley Bilz show now. Ha. Um, So all of those things you can pull into your resume to really set yourself apart. And just being able to communicate those things. Welcome back. It's my
I'm
show
so
now.
glad you were still here.
Um,
What I miss.
I was just talking to Laurel Golden had a great comment about disposal of hazardous waste. Your hazard communication
Mhm.
training is huge. Any kind of training that your employer put you through, those stupid computer-based trainings, the CBTs you had to sit through, those are worth money. And if you
Oh,
can
yeah.
show an employer that you've already had that training, that's a savings to them.
Definitely. When I talk about like documentation, because, okay, a little bit about Siobhan. I did a project for Cal State Fullerton as a senior, and I just read through a ton of fall protection standards. And eventually, I created a beginner's guide to fall protection, which is really like what I wish I'd known that nobody taught me when I started rigging. And but I wrote it, and then I was familiar with the language, and I went to an ANSI meeting at some point, and I was exposing myself to all this and reading a bunch of OSHA regulations. So then when I tell people that that is a skill that I have, I also mention that when a cast member at Disney, I had to go through like confined space training, ergonomic training, the lockout tagout training, hazardous waste, basic fall protection, and all of these things that our department had to go through. And it's been awesome. It is super marketable. So let's all get into safety. That's all I got to say.
I mean, it's a huge buzzword right now, and the fact that a bunch of people are looking for people that are safety minded, and that's on the forefront of everyone's mind. If you can put that right up at the top, they'll go, oh, great. Any classes you're taking right now, just look at the table of contents on there, on the things that you're covering. If your proficiencies, whenever I'm talking about a soft skill in a resume or trying to translate something, I always put a verb. So did I build? Did I conceptualize? Did I launch? Those are great things.
Mhm.
Also mentioning your the soft skill training that you get about diversity and equity and inclusion. Those are great things to put into your cover letter. As you know, I like to build teams based rooted in equity and inclusion. That lets them know that you understand what equity and inclusion is, that you're a team player, and that you are adept at assembling those teams, kind of assembling your own Avengers, and even leading those teams. So
Mhm.
really just thinking about those words that your company would drill into your head, they did that for a reason.
Yeah. So, this is actually a perfect segue into our next section, Sophie's Choice, your project resume. Now, what is Sophie's Choice referencing? Please explain.
So Sophie's Choice is a movie about making an impossible choice, about choosing your favorite child kind of thing. And knowing that, you know, you choose your favorite, but you also care about the thing that you're leaving behind. And that can be really hard. When I first rolled into this COVID thing with my resume, it was really long. It was very verbose, which is funny because my specialty is usually taking a lot of information and compacting it and making it pretty. I could not do it with my own stuff because I cared
Mhm.
about all of it. And a really
Yeah.
important part of being a copy editor is that you can't care about it. So I actually handed my resume to people that I really respected and whose career I wanted to emulate, and said, "Help me. What is this? What does this need?" And they would look at it and say, "That's a lot. That's a
Uh,
lot of stuff."
yeah.
um, so really pulling it down and making it a project resume instead of telling my whole life story and trying to explain everything I've ever done, really just putting it in there as a teaser trailer instead of your own like documentary series. Because really, this resume,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
resume is just getting you in the door. This is just the things that I've done. This is the stuff I've accomplished. Don't you want to talk to me about them? Like, doesn't this sound interesting? Don't you want to learn more? That's the kind of thing that you're getting into with a
Teaser.
project
Don't
resume,
you want to see more of this resume of
right?
who I am?
Like someone should look at it and be like, "Oh my gosh, they worked on this project? That's really cool." Or, "Wow, they had this kind of training. I wonder what that's about." Like putting it on there so people that know what it is will be like, "Wow, that was a really big project. that's totally what we do here. And people that don't know it say, wow, that was a really big project. I kind of want to know more about that. Because full disclosure, I've gotten interviews just because I had like World of Color on my resume. And they were like, oh, I love World of Color. I went with my kids and they, we bought ice cream and it was magical. And I'm just like, oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Let me bring the magic to your place of employment now.
Exactly.
Here are my skills.
So, I mean, but breaking it down and getting rid of everything, getting rid of all of those fancy words that we just talked about, and just boiling down my projects was also kind of a fun little jaunt down memory lane. And I did that in a table. I just made a huge table in Word, actually in Design. I prefer InDesign for layout. We'll get into that later.
Cool.
And I just listed every show I've ever done, every project at Disney, every grad night, every Small World install, every like the Yamaha concert that Disney did. That's huge. I completely forgot about that in like my first month of resumes. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I did 2 Yamaha concerts. That's huge. Putting those things in there, putting in the stupid commercial shoots that I did. And just, thinking about the places that I've worked and been like, okay, what did I actually build there? And just making that big table, which took up a whole page by itself. And then comes
Just
the
a
Sophie's
list.
choice. Yeah, then comes the Sophie's choice, where I don't want that whole table on there. But if I'm going for something in film and broadcast, then maybe I knock out some of my live production stuff and put my film things towards the top. If I'm going into more of a corporate setting, then I pick the ones where I did show development and project maintenance and documentation, but not the ones where I was an electrician. So
Right.
I really had 3 columns going on. I had the name of the project, and then I had the company I did it for, and then I had like just a very 2-word description of what I did, and they would be constant. So it was like show development, project maintenance, show production, facility maintenance, project maintenance, like that kind of thing. So it's very broad, but it gives them an idea of what you did for that thing.
Yeah.
And that helped me a lot to really cut it down, because then I just had this neat little table on the bottom that said select projects. And this is also a great thing to go on your LinkedIn. Like there's a whole thing in there that says projects, list everything. So I just
People
had this
definitely
neat little...
look at your LinkedIn when you're applying for jobs, because when I go into interviews, they're like, oh, so I noticed this and I saw this and that and the other. So yeah, definitely list everything when you can.
Yeah. And you'd be surprised, like who links into some of your stuff saying, oh yeah, I worked on that project. Or they say, oh, remember I worked with you on so-and-so. I'm like, sure, LinkedIn, let's do it.
Yeah.
But having this little just select projects on the bottom instead of trying to tell my whole life story really freed up the rest of the page, so I could talk about my education, my software, and then have only 3 or 4 bullets of the fancy HR words for the soft skills at the top relating to that job.
So
and that
you
keeps
have
it
the
close.
soft skills, you have your skills listed at the top.
My most successful resume, the one I've gotten the most bites at, has my name huge at the top. Guys, if your name isn't huge, then what are you even doing?
It's all about you guys.
Right? You want them to remember your name. Remember my name, fame. That's an old one. I have a little blurb, just kind of like my LinkedIn headline. That's where you say like, hi, I'm a multidisciplinary entertainment professional who let me work for you and make your stuff really cool. It's just like a 1-sentence thing. I put that underneath. And then I have like 3 bullets of my skills that directly apply to the job that I'm going for, like superior written, verbal, and interpersonal communication skills, or quick study with acumen for picking up new technology. Those things I'll put at the top, because if someone's only going to give me 10 seconds, I want to put all my stuff right there. And that's really where I go into like their qualifications or their responsibilities that they put in the job thing. And I look at those qualifications and say, hey, which one of these do I definitely have? and want to
Mhm.
mirror that. Don't want to copy, but I want to put it in there. And
Now,
that's where that list comes in.
quick question. When you bullet point at the top, do you just do like your top 3 soft skills? Or I know like in Word, you can have 2 columns. So then that would allow you to have like 6 bullet points. Do you do that? Do you recommend
Um,
it? Not recommend that?
Personally, I like to have a single line that isn't broken up. That's a nice like sentence. Like
Uh,
my first one is expert level organization, including logistics, scheduling, dependency forecasting, and asset management. So that's
mhm.
basically saying, I'm going to organize your stuff. I'm going to get people in on time, and I'm going to make sure nothing gets lost or broken. And that's right
Gotcha.
there at the top. And that lets them know all of those things in one sentence. And it's nice and clean at the top. It's got space all around it. So it communicates and it lets them know that I listen to their job requirements. And this is a thing that I definitely do. And if they
Mhm.
want to know how I did that, they go down a little bit more and they see my cool projects.
Gotcha. When
Yeah.
you list your projects, do you keep your resume to 1 page or 2 pages? Because yesterday Nicole mentioned that 1 to 2 pages was standard.
I for a while I tried cheating and doing a legal size paper so I could have a longer first page. And that's
Yeah,
great until somebody goes to print it, and then it prints out all weird and it messes up. So I
that's
wouldn't
pretty
recommend
funny.
doing that.
That's pretty funny.
I keep it so that my first page can be presented on its own. I have select projects, my work history, my certifications, my software knowledge, and my education. And then my little bullet points, and that fits pretty tightly. And then I do have a second page on ones that I use for things that are more entertainment, like things that I used to do, where I list my electrics and lighting experience very specifically. Like, do I know specific consoles or ArtNet and DMX protocol, like that kind of stuff? I list all that there. My automation systems, fall protection certifications I've gotten, video knowledge, my MUP and lift equipment. That's where I list all that on that second page,
Mhm,
so that they still get a really good idea of who I am on that first page if they're just flipping through. And then if they get to that second page because they're still interested, they see that I
mhm.
really know what I'm talking about. And also, don't forget to put your name on the second page. Keep that header or put it, I like to put it on the side because it's usually a top to bottom, but keep your name on there, keep it big
Yeah,
so that if nothing else, they recognize it.
yeah. You see the ticker? Am I missing anything?
Oh, let's see. Hard skills. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, looks good. I mean, I'm kind of a format queen, so I like to make my resumes graphically impact.
Yeah.
So I have my name really big, and then I also have my contact information very large.
Mhm.
Um, and I prefer to do my layouts in InDesign because it's a little less finicky than Microsoft Word. Because in Word, like you do a single space and the whole thing blips into 3 pages for no reason.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So design is that's another Microsoft, um,
um,
or is it
InDesign is
Apple?
is Adobe.
It's Adobe. Okay.
Yeah, but Microsoft Publisher kind of does it, and that's a Microsoft product.
And then
Just it,
Macintosh's Pages, right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
can do that in Pages.
You can. I haven't worked on that one, but if you are a member of IATSE, you do get access to LinkedIn Learning for freezies, where you can learn how to do InDesign, you can learn Premiere, you can learn After Effects, and those tutorials are really great. And they're another skill that you can add on there. Like, I don't
Do
know
you
about you
happen
guys. Hmm?
do you happen to know if that resource is available for people who are in the, SAG-AFTRA organization for the
I,
performers?
I don't know. There's
Well,
probably something in there.
yeah, if you're so I guess, bottom line, if you're a member of any organization, definitely check with your organization to see what kind of resources are out there right now. And we know that if you are an IATSE member, you have access to LinkedIn Learning.
Absolutely. And
Good to know.
if you have kids at home, then they get a discount on Adobe Creative Suite, so you can teach yourself Premiere for 20, at $20 a month. You have access to all of the Adobe Suite projects, which means that you could do Premiere video editing on your own. There's a lot of like Fiverr projects and freelance projects where you can do video editing and stuff on your own time. And that's another thing to add to your resume.
Very true. Yeah, I mean, so I think how do I want to say this? When you come from working with a company like Disney for however many years, 10, 15 years plus, then it's easy to get comfortable. And, because you have your steady income, you have your health benefits, you have everything. And that's a wonderful place to be. But now you've kind of that security has been taken from you. So but you can be a freelancer. You can go to Upwork, or is it Upworks? Don't quote me on that. One of the two. Fiverr. There are websites out there where you can do projects, and we're all creative people. So like Ashley was saying, you can do video design, you can get into web design, you can get into copywriting, you can get into writing safety documentation. So there are those opportunities out there. And again, you should it now is a really good time to network with people and just ask people questions. I think the best way to network with people is by asking them questions, because people like talking about themselves. And when someone is in a position where they're very comfortable and they feel comfortable, like you're not a threat to them, they're happy to pass on their knowledge to you. That's a great way to start a conversation. Is you check them out on LinkedIn. Be like, hey, I saw you're working on this project. Hey, I saw this accomplishment of yours recently. Congratulations. This is really cool. Can I ask you a question about such and such? Is it okay if I pick your brain? And schedule a time to chat with them, call them, do a FaceTime with them. That's getting a little more into networking. But I think that's a good, unless you have more to talk about with resume writing, I think that's a good segue into talking about you're more awesome than you think.
Yeah, and that is a great segue. I've kind of gotten into LinkedIn, and even people that are just posting content, like super high executives. I actually found out that one of the executives for Storyland Studios started in the regional theater where I saw my first big professional show as a kid. So I actually reached out and wrote him like this corny message of just like, hey, I wanted to let you know that I met you a really long time ago. And because of the work you did, I got into theater and I'm here now. So really, this is all your fault. Thank you so much. And he was really kind.
Thank you.
He was really kind and he got back to me, but just making that little connection, like that guy's going to remember me. And, you never know who's looking at you. Like I got called in for an interview for a COVID position, and it turns out that the person interviewing me was doing an in-between job for a themed design firm. They were looking at my resume and said, oh my God, you do a lot of the stuff we need, regularly when we're not in COVID. Would it be okay if I forwarded your resume to that company? And I said, oh yeah, you go ahead and do that.
That's super awesome.
You never know who's there, and just making those weird connections, or even interacting with content on LinkedIn instead of saying, wow, this is amazing, or that's so cool, asking the next question of saying like, hey, that's a really cool piece of technology. Do you see it evolving into a different way? Like asking those intelligent questions, kind of when you were in school and you're saying, I understand the concept and I want to know further. They're going to remember that. And even if they don't like reply to you, it shows everyone that interacts with that content that you were thinking about what's happening there.
Yeah. So if you comment on a LinkedIn post, and even if that person doesn't reply to your comment, other people who follow that person, if they have like, if they have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 followers, all those followers, that's going to scroll on their screen and they may see your comment. And then the more you interact with more posts, people are going to see you pop up here and there. And then it kind of builds your rapport in a way. And it kind of like, if you see someone online for the first time, especially if they come off as car salesman-y, then you're probably I would think to myself, are they real? Are they fake? Are they trying to get information from me? Are they just hitting on me? Are they just trying to sell me something rather than build a professional relationship? These are things to think about, but when you pop up on someone's screen more and more and more, they start seeing you as a more they kind of see you as more of a whole person, or at least more of a real person. And then when you're asking those next level questions, that benefits you, and it makes you look like you're thinking ahead. You're not just like, congratulations. Like that's like getting a text message from someone and you pour your heart out and they reply K.
Yeah,
So, like,
exactly.
take your comments and your interactions to that next level.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like use your friends for marketing or anything like that, but I mean, I talk with my friends on Facebook very differently than I interact with their posts on LinkedIn. So the way I like to think of it is that I'm marketing myself on LinkedIn, but I'm also promoting my friends. So,
Mhm.
if I see my friend like, I don't know, start a podcast or something, I'm gonna I'm gonna elevate that. I'm going to retweet it. I'm going to share it. I'm going to, interact with it so that that gets posts and that it also shows that I am doing stuff on LinkedIn and I'm not just a robot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mutual thing going on there. Um, but talking about mutual stuff and asking for help, I think it's so important to reach out to friends right now, especially as we get into the holiday season. Please talk to each other. I know social media is evil, but we are social creatures. We need to reach out. And in my darkest moments of professional insecurity, I had the benefit of having some mentors at Disney. And when I was putting together my resume to leave Disney, I asked them, would you please write me a recommendation? And they absolutely said, oh my God, when do you need it by? What do you want? Like, how can I give it to you? And I said, well, I'd really like kind of a general letter that I can just attach to my resume so you aren't getting a million calls. And those three people wrote me recommendations that have pulled me out of a lot of dark places. Just having them not only not attached to my resume, but ready to give to employers, but looking
Mhm.
at that and saying, this is a person I respect and someone that's really good at their job that is telling me right here on paper that I am good at my job too, and I do things. And sometimes it's important to get that external validation when your own self-confidence isn't quite as strong. So please reach out to your friends for recommendations or endorsements or anything. And you'd be surprised at who's willing to write you that letter that really does kind of boost your confidence.
And I think if anybody is ever in a really good mood and you're really like you're feeling yourself that day, you should write yourself a letter of recommendation. And then when you are feeling like an imposter or you're feeling inadequate or depressed, whatever, then you can look at that resume or you can look at that letter of recommendation you wrote for yourself and you think to yourself, whoa, I think that about myself. Whoa, I think, I am more awesome than I think right now. Um, I've done that. I've like in little journals, I've written this book belongs to a super confident, amazing woman, blah, 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 blah. Blah. But it's like a journal when I was 10 years old or 15 years old.
Uh,
And as a 25-year-old, I like randomly find these things and I'm like, whoa, who is this girl?
Well, it's so funny
I've
because
thought that about myself. Whoa. But it's
it
fun.
well, it's so funny. I think we can all relate to I saw a mug on Facebook with their marketing. They got me. And it said like I have run out of patience for underqualified people in disproportionate positions of power. We
Mm,
all know that person that's like the super manager or has the shiny job, and you're just like,
mhm.
"You're an idiot. How did you get that job? I could
Yeah.
do that better." And it's because of this confidence. So I think it's important to remember that sometimes when you're looking at jobs and you're scrolling through and you're like, "Oh my god, I don't have a bachelor's degree," or "Oh my gosh, I don't have 20 years of experience." Who cares? They don't hire, like, they hire people for degrees, but in most of the things that we're looking at, they just want that person who works well with a team, that knows what a deadline is, that can get stuff done. They don't care if you really have a bachelor's degree.
Mhm.
So unless it says like bachelor's degree required in like big letters, just go for it. What are they going to do? Say no? I mean,
Yeah.
they have an entire department of people whose job it is to look at the resumes and say, this person goes, this person stays. And I mean, I put in for a sheriff's department dispatcher. um, and it said like must have experience in law enforcement. I put in for it anyway because I've done dispatching as a scheduler, and
Mhm.
they put me through to the next level. Like I,
Well,
I
that's
didn't
awesome.
I didn't make it all the way through, but I was like, oh, all right. And that's something I want to say right now is rigging professionals, you guys need to get into the Forest Service. There is a huge demand for people that know life safety and rigging and climbing stuff um, in the Forest Service, firefighting, stage managers. They need dispatchers. They need people who can live in the moment, stay calm on headset, listen to walkie talkies, and input things. That's a great thing for you guys to go into on government jobs. Pension is choice. um, Look into those government jobs. Even if you don't think you're qualified, if they're listing all yeses for you and the only no is something, that and there's only one no, just go for it. Why not? It doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I really am blown away by all of this because people outside of entertainment need to hear this from you too. And I'm really hoping that as my brand grows, that more people in other industries will hear this because they need to hear it. They need to hear about what it means to be a stage manager or a rigger or a lighting technician or a an event coordinator and all of these things so that when you do try to go for these other jobs, that people need to be aware that we have these qualifications. It's our job as individuals to show them that, to communicate that with them. And I think the more content that we collectively put out there demonstrating and comparing these industries and jobs and qualifications and roles, the more people will be aware of it and the more people will think, okay, I can hire an entertainment worker. They are going to be very qualified. Maybe, um, there are programs helping veterans get back into the civilian world because sometimes it's a struggle. If you were in infantry, it's hard translating infantry into anything else other than like maybe law enforcement. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I mean, there's never really been a demand to have those similar programs or similar content for entertainment workers until this year. So I encourage everybody to like put your stuff out there, share with everybody what it is that you do, and you know look at your previous job descriptions, look at job descriptions of roles you hope to acquire soon, and pick out those keywords, translate it into HR speak. You can contact Ashley on LinkedIn and she'd be happy to help you. And I mean, imagine if you contacted Ashley and Nicole and whoever else is on this live stream. You have all these resources that can help you, and you're going to have such a killer resume. And we're going to make it known that entertainment workers, performers, production crew, technicians, everybody is an asset to any company, in my opinion.
You are more awesome than you think, and you are just the brand of awesome that somebody is looking for.
That's right. That is absolutely right. So I want to go back. You mentioned that you were in an apprenticeship for carpentry, or no, for fabrication through IATSE 33.
Yeah, it was a brief gig in college for a set design thing. It was kind of like an internship sort of thing, but I was listed as an apprentice carpenter because I was because 33 has a very extensive uh, vetting process. So
Mhm.
it was really more of like a summer gig when I was in college, but it did expose me to a lot of the um, just the craftsmanship that goes into it. At the time, I was very young and very stupid and very like not absorbing the things that I should have. Um, but it's still on there, and
Yeah.
I still put it in there when I want to demonstrate my fabrication stuff, because it shows everyone comes from somewhere, and and it's just about it's about putting it all out there and saying this is me, this is all of me.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask about that because there are apprenticeship programs. I've not really looked into it. I've heard the term apprentice and journeyman. Um, so if you're like a technician, say you were a master electrician at the resort, then there's a lot of opportunity out there, especially when you have such a technical skill like that. Um, look into apprenticeships or programs like that. You may not get paid what you used to get paid, and that's going to be a matter of personal choice whether you want to be in your current situation or get a job at a certain pay level. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, and it's totally like a personal choice kind of thing. Um, but there's programs like that. There's certifications. One of my colleagues, Trevor Whipke, he owns Rope Technologies, and he's used to be a rigger for Cirque du Soleil, and he is now doing wind turbine maintenance. And for that, I'll have him on, and we can get more into that when he's here. But just real quick, like if you have OSHA 10, you take a GWO course, and have CPR certification. There's maybe one other thing, but when you have that, you're more marketable and you're more likely to get into that industry. And you can take classes. Like he recently took a fiberglass maintenance class, like or fiberglass repair. How do you repair fiberglass for on the blades? And if you can find courses that are going to help make you more marketable and that are going to elevate you when people are looking at your resume, go for it. It's an investment. These classes can range from $50 for a COVID certification to like $1,500 for a SPRAT certification. But it's again, it comes down to personal choice, what it is that you want to do. And bottom line, go for it. Just go for the thing, because you are more awesome than you think.
Yeah, I have a very good friend of mine, Tara Nelson, who is a genius electrician at the Disneyland Resort and part of the moving light shop. And she actually has gone into residential electrics under a journeyman electrician. And that all counts towards something. So not only getting paid, but getting those hours towards certification of IBEW, that's a really transferable job skill. And I have a couple other friends who have transitioned from moving light repair and like small electronics, like making props with LED stuff in it, into actually SpaceX and doing their production line. Like there's when you boil down not just what you're doing like in your day, but the task that you did, there's a lot of things that are really similar that you can highlight and you can show somebody on your resume saying, "Hey, I know how to do this thing, just not in the way that you think it usually is done."
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And we live in a time where social media is very prevalent. So it's not like your resume is your only in through a door. And think about our industry. People say it's all about who you know. People would rather work with someone who is great to work for rather than someone who knows everything. And it's about who you know. So in the age of virtual conferences and virtual meetups and social media, your resume is one piece of you. You can put content out there. You can share photos of what you used to do, and you can just like share a photo of, hey, this is what I was doing, and I can see this translating into this job. You can tag the company that you are applying for a position with. You can put video content out there. You can put educational content, and actually, I put out a video about how to send a steel basket up to the riggers the right way. And okay, that day I was up in the grid. I was up on these beams, and a lot of stuff was getting sent to us incorrectly. And it was causing us to have to, like, one person would hold the rope, or we would tie, and I'd have to go out and fix something while some other guy is holding the weight, and we'd have to do these weird transfers, and it just made the process of the load-in go longer. And so when I came down, I'm like, okay, I'm going to make this video. And if anybody struggles with where to tie the rope onto a steel basket, then they can hopefully see this video, and hopefully we will see less mistakes like this in the world. And then everybody's load-in will be easier. And it's a minute long, maybe, it's not that long. And I put it out on LinkedIn, and it circulates, and it's opened opportunities for me. I'm no one special. I'm not an influencer. I don't
You're
have like a
awesome.
master's degree, or I don't have as much experience as a lot of these other riggers who have been on way bigger shows than I've ever could dream of being on. But I just put myself out there, and that's kind of what it boils down to. So don't be afraid to do that, because
You're
you
awesome.
are more awesome than you think.
Wait,
Ashley,
I don't want video footage of me doing that. Yes, you're more awesome.
do you have any closing remarks? This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really like flattered. Like Siobhan contacted me, and I was just like, you want me to talk?" But you guys are worth it. The work that you did was so important, and it is amazing. And you get to take that with you wherever you go, and you're going to do amazing things and creative things wherever you go, because you are the one doing it. And you just have to have that confidence to show what you've done and be who you are, and hopefully land someplace maybe even a little bit better than the place that you were in pre-COVID. I believe in you. You can do it.
I love it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This has been such a wonderful, wonderful live stream full of so much advice and actionable advice. I'm Siobhan Colleen, and I will see you all on our next adventure. Take care.